Welcome back to another journey with Jesus through the Gospels. Thank you for joining me this day. I'm Bishop Green, and today we got another topic we're going to talk about, and it's a really strange topic, but I want you to listen to what the title of this topic is. I want you to compare it to the scriptures we're going to be talking about, and you're going to see why I chose this topic. This topic is called A Crummy Life. Yes, you heard that right. A crummy life. And it's found over in the book of Matthew, the 15th chapter, and over in the Gospel of Mark, the 7th chapter. And the lesson backdrops begin talking about a certain woman had a young daughter, and this young daughter had an unclean spirit, and we know in the biblical terms that means a demon or devil. But the good news is she heard about Jesus, and the lesson goes on to saying once she heard about him, she came to Jesus, and it says she fell at his feet. And so I think this woman was getting to know that, listen, if Jesus can't help her, she's not gonna find the help. But this woman had to go through some things in order to get her request answered. But we're gonna look at what she had to go through, and then we're gonna talk about what Jesus did concerning this woman's situation. And so it goes on to say the woman happened to be a Greek or Canaanite, which is simply saying she was not of the Jewish people, okay? And so it's kind of distinguishing her as being what's called an outsider. And we know as Christians or Gentiles that we were outsiders, but we know that Jesus came to seek and to save that which was lost, and we were lost. And so he came and brought us on the inside, and now we are sons and daughters. But anyway, this woman came, fell down at his feet, and she began to say, besought him or plead with him or beg with him that he would cast out this demon out of her daughter. So looks like the woman and her young child was living, together at the house, and something was going on with this daughter. And I'm sure the woman determined that she's not sick physically, so it's something else is going on. And I think this woman can show us a little bit about, as parents, that we need to be able at least to take a closer look when our children is having some, I call, deep-rooted issues going on in their life, and we just don't see any evidence of any sickness or anything, that we got to look a little bit closer and try to get to what's called the root of the problem. But anyway, she wanted Jesus to cast this devil out. And it uses the word cast out, is meaning that this particular demon or devil wasn't going to go out on his own. That's when you read that terms in the Bible, cast out the devil, that means he's not going out on his own. He gonna have to be put out forcibly. In other words, that's also letting us know when the spirit get into somebody and get a stronghold in there, they don't want to go out. So, but they can be cast out and put out forcibly. But anyway, Jesus said to her, he said, it's not proper to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs. Now, a lot of teaching have been said about this particular way Jesus responded to this lady. Was he calling her a dog? We have to understand that under the law of Moses and before the Gentiles come into salvation, all Gentiles, which that's what she was, says she was a Greek or non-Jewish, that we were all considered heathens or dogs or whatever. In other words, we did not have a God in our lives. So therefore, we was kind of like considered a heathen is the more proper word. But Jesus said that he came for the chosen people of Israel. That's what he was saying, and that it wasn't proper to give their blessings to those who were not of the chosen people of Israel. But we know Jesus was trying to bring out something in this woman, and I like to use the term, I think he was trying to see, how bad do you want it? You know, because some people would have stopped right there when they was insinuated that you're calling me a dog. I'm done, I'm through, I'm gone. But it didn't bother this woman, because this woman wanted it bad enough that to see her daughter be delivered. And so the woman, she wisely responded back to Jesus, and she answered and said to Jesus, said, "Yes, Lord." Look at here. The woman just been somewhat called a dog, or put in the same company as a dog. And yes, she's saying, "Yes, Lord." And then she said, "Yet the dogs under the table eat the crumbs from the children's table." What falls down? We can see the concept of that. Children at a table eating, and yet food fall out on the ground, on the floor rather, and then many of them had house pets, and the pets kind of hung around under the table so they could receive those crumbs. And that's why I'm talking about a crummy life in a sense. But what did Jesus do? That's what we want to come to. Let's get to the point. After she made her request, Jesus told her that can't give the children's bread to dogs. She came back and said, "Now listen, even the dogs get the crumbs that fall from the table, or the children's table." And so now we want to take a look at the WWJD and see what would Jesus do, or in this case, what did he do? And we see that Jesus was trying to say unto the woman, well, he said unto the woman rather, "Great is thy faith." Jesus saw some faith in this woman through the exchange that they had. And so his response was, "Great is your faith." And then he turns around and said, "Be it unto thee even as thou wilt." Amen. And so he said, because of your faith, and we can also add in there, because you didn't get upset and get mad and storm out the door because of that little phrase about children not dogs, the bread, the crumbs have to come from the dog people's table. But anyway, he said, "Great is your faith." And then he turns around and said, "Your daughter right now has been made whole." So that's how bad she wanted it, that to see her daughter. And we have to learn from what this woman went through. It's not about us. It's about others. It's about our family, our children, our relationship. It's not about us. And so she stood there and engaged with Jesus. But at the end, she got her request made. And we see what Jesus did in the midst of it. We see that this woman no longer was living a crummy life after Jesus had blessed and healed and given her a request, because she now had a seat at the table. Now she wasn't like the little dogs or puppies up under the table waiting for crumbs to fall, but she was sitting at the table because she had been invited by Jesus. It says, "Great is thy faith." And so now she's sitting at the table. The next thing is this daughter had peace in her life, in herself. Amen. And we can see between the two, the mother-daughter, there was peace and harmony now that was going to take place in that home. And we can see that the demon or the devil tried to keep the woman and her daughter from he wanted to keep them living a crummy life, always under the bottom, always beneath, always not good enough, and so forth. But Jesus made her good enough. When she said, Lord, and Jesus said, thy faith, and she was now on the same level with the Jewish people, with Jesus. Jesus gave her a new life. This woman and her daughter. And this woman actually asked the Lord, said, I need help. This woman had come to the end. She had no one else to turn to. I'm reminded of the woman that had an issue of blood, and when she pressed her way to Jesus to touch his garment, there was no other hope left. And so when we come to the end of our road, or end what we call our last hope, and listen, Jesus is our last hope. And if we don't accept Jesus, then where else can we go? And so we thank the Lord, and I want to appreciate you for stopping by, listening to this. I want to share this with you. And when you get into the study of it, reading of it, you're going to see a lot of other things in this. But there's so many points in this lesson that we can get as far as we are now sons and daughters of God. We are heirs and joint heirs with Christ. And we are sitting at the table. Somebody called it the welcome table. And so we thank God for that. So I'm going to end the video, and we're going to let you look at it a little close and see what the Lord should give to you on it. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and we'll catch you on the next video.